Hello.
Hey dude, how's it going? I was just wondering if you could hook me up with some Gondor buildings to display my next project on.
Yeah, I think I could probably knock you something up pretty quick.
That's awesome, thanks dude, really appreciate it.
I would need something in return, man, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, just tell me what it is.
Build me an army worthy of Mordor.
Yeah, okay, sure dude, yeah, I'll do that as soon as possible. Well, that was a little weird, but challenge accepted. Now then, Michael from That One Videos has sent me the miniatures that he'd like me to paint. So let's dive in and see what we've got. It's Uruk Hai. Mainly the heavily armoured fighting Uruk Hai by the looks of it, with a couple of the scouts mixed in. They're all in different stages of painting and basing, but that won't be a big problem. There were a few breakages, but thankfully nothing too serious. So a little drop of glue here and there soon got them back into shape. After that, I had to scrape off the basing material from the few models that had it, and as sad as that might seem, Michael has asked for these guys to be based up in a dark, muddy theme, so I need to clear all the bases out before I can do that. Now all the prep work's done, let's take a closer look at them. Before I begin thinking about a paint scheme for these models, I'm going to consult some of my favourite reference books. I always enjoy flicking through these before I start a Middle Earth project. There's so much more detail, context and inspiration to gain from them, compared to just watching the movies alone. After a few minutes of looking over the Uruk Hai pages, I know where to begin. To help keep the end result consistent, I'm actually going to reprime these models with a dark muddy brown. It provides the perfect base tone for the Uruk's red-brown skin, and also for the dirty dark silver metallics used on their armour. It's just a case of loading them up onto the primer stick and getting on with it. So they're all ready to be primed on the stick, but I'm a bit lazy, so instead of going out and priming them, I'm going to prime them through the magic of YouTube. And now that they're primed, let's get into the painting. Now the primer's down, we'll go around and block in the other base coats. I'll start with a mid-orange brown for the skin, a dark grey for the leather, silver for all the metal parts, and a light grey for their hair. But you don't want to sit here and listen to me explain every step. You guys all know how to paint. So whilst I get these colours down, let's talk about my relationship with miniature painting. As I keep growing on my miniature painting journey, I'm more accepting of the fact that I'll never be a world-class, award-winning painter. I just simply don't have the patience or the natural talent required to achieve those standards. That might have been the initial goal that I was working towards, but it definitely isn't anymore. However, what I am understanding is that painting brings me joy. Finishing projects gets me excited, and really, that's enough. So my goal with this hobby is to figure out different techniques and tricks to help get projects painted efficiently, while still producing good results. I don't have to be the best in the world. I just have to do a good enough job to make me happy. This is a hobby, so it should be fun and enjoyable, not stressful and demotivating. Now, of course, there is all sorts of painters and hobbyists out there, and we all do this for different reasons, so everyone's approach is valid. But what you need to do is figure out your why. Why do you do this? What do you want from it? And then make sure that you're judging your success against your own metrics, and not somebody else's. But anyway, that's enough of my rambling. Let's carry on with these Uruks. Now, you might think that I've gone too bright with these base colours, and that is a totally fair comment. But what I'm going to do next is cover the whole model in a heavy layer of a dark grey-black wash. This brings all of those base colours together and tones the whole model down dramatically, whilst really pushing them towards that dark, gritty look that I'm going for here with these Uruks. This is another little technique that I often use to save time when painting large batches of models. When starting out, we're often taught that the base, shade and highlight technique is the best way to paint your minis. But what if you could save a step in that process, and therefore save some time, at least on your rank and file troops? Of course, you can save those extra steps and the more advanced techniques for when you're working on your character, hero and centerpiece models to really help them stand out on the tabletop. But if there's any tips or tricks I can use to speed up batch painting and get me closer to that next dopamine hit of a completed project, I'm going to use it. So if you enjoy this style of painting and want to discover new tips and tricks with me, then make sure you subscribe to my channel now so you can catch my upcoming videos. The next step is to bring some brightness back to these models, just to give that extra bit of pop, but again, I want to be efficient about this. So I take a look at the model and identify the most prominent areas that people will be looking at. And for these Uruks, it's very clearly their metal armour, shields and weapons. So I'll take some silver paint and do some scratchy, dry brushed highlights across all the metalwork. This helps to add the bit of brightness that I want, but it also adds a worn, scratched, aged effect that I really like. That completes the miniatures themselves, so it's time to move on to basing now. Basing is one of my favourite steps in the whole process, as it really lets you set the scene for your models and give them a home. As I mentioned earlier, Michael wants these based up in a dark, muddy theme, so I decided to mix up my own basing paste from some supplies. A fine grit texture paste from Vallejo, a dark brown craft paint, and a little bit of black ink just to help with the darkness. Don't be afraid of customising things like this. There is a huge amount of materials that we can use for basing to create custom mixes, so just go and have a play with things. It opens up almost limitless possibilities for how to base your miniatures. And don't worry when those experiments don't always work out. This one didn't for me. When dry, the basing paste was a bit lighter than I wanted it to be. So don't forget that you can always go back in, knock it back with a wash to add some shadows, and then catch the high points with some dry brushing, just like I'm doing here. You can keep adjusting and editing, going back and forth until you're completely happy with the end result. After doing this, the only thing left to do is a couple of coats of blacks on the base rims, and these guys were done. So, let's take a look. I'm really happy with how these turned out, especially considering that I painted them all over a weekend, and a lot of that was drying time for the all-over wash and basting paste. It really shows what you can do if you put your mind to it and start to think outside the box in regards to traditional miniature painting techniques. If you've got any tips or tricks about painting projects efficiently, I'd love to read them, so drop them in the comments below. Time to pack these guys up now and get them ready to send back to Michael, along with a nice little surprise for him. If you want to see how we used these Uruks and how we built that Gondor house that I asked for, make sure to check out his video by following the link in the description. And as always, thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.